Hey folks, welcome to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Carlos, it looks like you're getting a little bit of sun down there in Florida, and I hope you had a great trip down to Florida. But your trip down to Florida is causing a short podcast today. Is that fair to blame you for that, or are you going to blame my technological issues?
Of course, I have dinner reservations at Mar-a-Lago. I got places to go and people to see, Shawn. I don't have time for you and your piddly podcast. Although my name's on it too, so maybe I shouldn't denigrate it.
No. I don't blame. I mean, your name's first, of course, but no, I don't blame you. Look, we got a brief, or at least a relatively brief, because we can be a little bit, loquacious from time to time. But a brief podcast. We want to check in with what you're doing down in Florida, spring training, what the Tigers look like. I know you haven't been down there all of 2 seconds, but I'm sure you got a little bit of a feel. At least you've been there a full day, so. You can talk about that, and we want to talk about the Big Ten tournament, Michigan State basketball, just a little bit, and then we'll get you out of here. How's that sound? What do you want to start with, by the way? Oh boy,
how beautiful the weather is! Just for the unfortunate Michiganders who were stuck up in the northern climes. I actually ran into one person, a fan of the Free Press, who happened to read my stuff, and he stopped me and said, "Hey, aren't you Carlos Monarch?" Yeah. And so he's like, "I'm a Lions fan," but he's lived down here in the Lakeland area for, I think he said 16 years. His name is Scott. Shout out, maybe Scott is listening. It's nice. It's nice to be down here. I always say this to people, if you've never been to spring training and you're a baseball fan of any sort, especially a Tigers fan, you need to come down here because it's fabulous. Everybody's happy. The games are fun. You don't have to stick around for the whole thing if you don't want. It's cool. You can see a bunch of different ballparks, a bunch of different teams. They're all, they're kind of clustered in areas, but it's not too hard to get around in good weather. So please come down. Tiger Town down here, Joker Marchant Stadium in Lakeland is really nice. So treat yourself and make the trip if you can.
Where did you see this alleged reader at Joker Marchant at the stadium?
I was at Joker Marchant. I was outside the press box, and I was waiting to getting a phone call from Phil Nevin, the Angels manager, who is the father of Tyler Nevin, who's a young player trying to make the team as a kind of a backup bench guy, platoon guy. Corner infielder, corner outfielder. And so I was just waiting out there, waiting to get the call and, a little bit of privacy away from the press box. And so he kind of just saw me and stopped me and said hi. And I always, by the way, I love to talk to fans and to readers and get their thoughts. And, it's not about me, but just, hear their experience. Where are you from? What are you doing here? Some people make the trip. In fact, quick aside is, I was last here in 2000, right before the pandemic shut everything down. And I was working on a story that I actually really loved reporting. It was talking to a bunch of fans about the hope of going into that season and Garden hires last season, I think it was, but what people were expecting and how is the team doing and are they ready to make a leap, whatever, the moves that Avila had done. But just hearing people's stories about where they were from. Some were, from Michigan. Most were from Michigan, and then I think I interviewed about 10 people. So it's just always fun. I mean, Shawn, you were our famous undercover fan in talking to Red Wings fans and playoffs. So it's always fun to talk to real people and about their love for sports.
There was a time when I used to go to arenas and spend more time in the concourse in the press box for sure, or just this. Yeah, it's harder to talk to them in the seats, because people want to watch you and you're in the way. Sometimes I'd sit. Every now and again, I'd sit. There was an empty seat, but not in the playoffs usually. But I'd sit on the stairs or something. But so what's? I know you just been down there a day, but boy, reading our coverage, especially our colleague, Evan Petzold for one, our beat writer, but also. Our other columnist, Jeff Seidel, it seems like the World Series is on its way. The Tigers can hit. There's all sorts of power. Everything's great. I mean, that's true at every spring training, though. But what's your sense of what this team might be?
I mean, they're just basically using the Sean Windsor lens to view everything in its most optimistic, positive light. And spring training, NFL training camp. It's always about hope and promise. I think that everybody knows that they're gonna, nobody's sure about what they have with the bullpen. I don't think they know who the closer is. Probably Alex Lang, but maybe not. They just signed Trevor Rosenthal, who used to be a Tiger and was amazing 7-8 years ago, whatever it was, and hasn't really pitched much or at all in the last year or two. So they're taking a look at him. We're talking to AJ Hinch about that today, and he's still, they're not sure. You got an older player who's had injuries, even though they were great. It's hard to know. Miguel Cabrera, his last trip, through the majors, the farewell tour. I think he was talking about that today. He got asked about it, and Hinch said, not Miguel Cabrera, but Hinch, and I think he said, Miggy isn't looking for too much attention. Well, we've written about that before. I think Miggy talked a couple of weeks ago or so, and saying he doesn't really want a lot of attention. And the thing with Miguel Cabrera is he is a professional. I mean, I think he understands when he goes to ballparks. The last time he was at Yankee Stadium and so forth. They're going to do stuff for him. They're going to, honor him with something, some parting gifts and whatever. He deserves it. He's never been an attention guy. He's never been, a rah-rah guy. And someone asked about him today and said, is maybe, I think it was Jason Stark who's visiting. He was there today. One of the national baseball writers, been around forever, really, really good writer, and asked, is this, can this give him some juice? He's playing in the World Baseball Classic. That's what he's doing right now in Taiwan. Could that give him some juice, for the rest of the season? And Hinch had a funny line saying, no, he's got plenty of juice all the time, except as soon as the media comes into the clubhouse, then he shuts it down. And if you know anything about Miguel Cabrera, he's been famously quiet, not loquacious, more taciturn with the media. That's been one of the frustrations of covering such a great hitter like Cabrera, right, Shawn? He rarely talked, and when he did, it didn't sometimes make sense of why he talked, and so it was always hard to know more about who he was. So he's not here right now, but we'll see what if he can. I hope that he just stays healthy. I think that it'd be bad if he's on the IL whatever the last half of the season or whatever. So I hope they manage him and really are very careful about not playing too much so that he can basically see the season through.
So you're, no, for sure on Cabrera. To give one more chance for people to go see him, especially around the country. And you're right. One of the great hitters in the history of the game, and certainly one of the couple of best hitters of this generation, last 20 years. But I want to ask you, if we apply a certain kind of fans logic, I don't know, maybe a bit of karma. Just the idea that whatever you think is going to happen, the opposite is going to happen. So, maybe the next year the reverse is true. And since everybody thought, not everybody, but a lot of folks thought they were going to get to the playoffs last year, or at least compete, make a playoff run. How about that? Including the team itself, the manager, the general manager, back at spring training. And it obviously didn't work out that way. So now nobody expects a thing. So does that mean they're going to make a playoff run this year? I mean, that's kind of the fans' logic, right?
You know what? I think that not this year because, you've got a new regime, a new general manager, team president, whatever you want to call him, Scott Harrison. He's got, a new system coming in, new personnel guys. They're retooling how they do things. It's going to take probably a little while to, instill that approach throughout the organization and certainly at the major league level. You still have, a big question is Spencer Torkelson. They need him to hit. I think Riley Green will have a really good year. If he hadn't started the year hurt last year, he had a pretty good year, but he would have had an even better year. I think if he stays healthy, this is all contingent on health, of course, but he should be primed for a really, really good season, offensively, defensively. Torkelson, this is an interesting year for him, right? Because he had such a struggle last year. He can't have that again. He can't have 2 straight years, just from, forget the production standpoint, but the confidence standpoint. You're a young player, you're a really high draft pick. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations. I mean, starting basically your career off in the majors 0 for 2 seasons, that would be really brutal. And I talked to one person, let's just say a very respected baseball veteran personnel person, and he thought, Torkelson needs confidence, like that's what he really announced. It's funny because I was talking a little bit about the Phil Nevin thing, and they were like, yeah, that's what Torkelson needs is some confidence. But it's hard to get that when you're not playing well. But you still have, you got Jonathan Scope, who needs to be better at the plate. You got Javi Baez, who needs to be much better at the plate with all those terrible strikeouts, chasing those sliders away, and defensively he needs to tighten things up. I think there's just too many moving parts right now for them to just say we're gonna catch fire. I don't think anybody's expecting, but like you said, when you don't expect it, suddenly it's like, what? Where did this come from? The Tigers on a run somehow. It's baseball. It could happen, but it would be highly unlikely, I would say.
Highly unlikely. Well, I guess you can dream, right? Mm-hmm. Have a summer where they're interesting again, don't you think?
Interesting. I mean, what qualifies as interesting in baseball? When you're, they're not. That's the problem. Is I don't think
young guys start to figure it out, right? I mean that could be part of it. When you're in a rebuild, you start to see some improvement from young guys. Yeah. That could be something.
I think that if you have, to me, when I like watching teams that are building, the thing that keeps me kind of interested in checking on them is if they're doing things a little bit differently, if they're going to be a speed team or something, or a power team. And, even though they're hitting a lot of home runs, that they don't have pitching and they're losing, 8-7 every night or whatever it is. I don't know if the Tigers really have that kind of identity to make you want to.
Well, apparently there's a lot of power, right? You read our paper. Apparently there's a lot of power going on down there.
Yeah, I mean in Lakeland, right, against double A guys against double A guys, whatever, single A guys. So yeah, I mean today I think what was the score to today? We're recording on Wednesday. It was something like 16-2. It was a football score, 16-3 something. So yeah, it's really hard to judge. But yeah, they do have some power in their lineup. So whether that comes to bear and they can carry it through and will be something else. But I don't think you look at this lineup right now and say, oh man, this is murderer's row here. They're gonna be pounding the ball. And I think they just need, and that's another one, right? Is Austin Meadows. He had a really, really tough year last year. And there's so many guys where it's a rebound season for them, him and Torkelson and even Baez to some extent, Scope a little bit, it's like how the one guy that you can point to say the arrow's up for sure. And there's no question that is Riley Green is the one guy you think like this guy he has kind of a all-star, potential written all over him. The rest of it is, I think one guy, is Spencer Turnbull. He missed pretty much all of last season. I think he did. Yeah, he missed all of last season. The year before that, he threw a no-hitter and then had, got hurt early in the season or midway through. So it's been a while. If he can recapture his form and be what, play up to his potential, I mean, that helps out the starting lineup. The starters. So, there's just too many questions, but that's part of the fun too, is figuring out, who fills what role. And some guys are going to do better than we expected, and other guys are going to, struggle more than we thought they might, or they aren't going to, do well enough to stay with the club. So baseball, it's just, it's a crapshoot, like cold streaks, hot streaks, new general manager, new system. It will be an interesting season that way. Whether that puts, people in the seats to watch that, is a different question.
Absolutely. Well, I look at, I think I speak for everybody here. I look forward to your dispatches from down there.
That sounds like I'm a Civil War correspondent. I like it.
Yeah, you're down there, 4 or 5 days. No. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with.
Thank you.
It should be fun. Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, listen, we need to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and get into the Big Ten tournament in Michigan State basketball, and why both coaches apparently need to be fired because they're either past their prime or they're need to retire, or they were never any good in the first place. I don't know, man. So, some days fans are just that wears me out a little bit. But no, it's all good. Let's get to that break, and we'll be right back with more Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Welcome back to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Carlos, I don't know that I've ever done this on this podcast, and I don't want to make this a habit, but you've been a very busy man in Lakeland today, and normally we read the paper every day. We read the sports section. We read each other's stuff, but you've been too busy for that. And we're going to talk about the Big Ten tournament here for a minute, well, specifically Michigan State basketball. And we don't need to talk about the column I wrote about Juwan Howard, Michigan, but I did want to at least read. Of course we do. I want to read the lead, unless you've read it during that quick break.
No, please read it.
Just to get and then you can kind of riff on this and see why. In any case, so I'll just read a quick few paragraphs here. I don't want to bore you too much, but you'll get the gist with the first few graphs. Here we go. No, Michigan basketball coach Juwan Howard isn't on the hot seat, nor should he be, nor should we be having this conversation. But here we are, because that's how we roll in the days of short memories and long expectations. So let's start with the postseason, where programs and, more importantly, college basketball coaches earn their reputations. Howard has won more NCAA tournament games, 5, than any other Big Ten coach the last 2 years. Tom Izzo has 1 win in that span. Matt Painter has 2. Brad Underwood, who has guided Illinois to 44 wins the last 3 Big Ten seasons, a school record, has 2, each in the first round. Fran McCaffrey, is it necessary to do that to the Iowa fans? Well, sorry, but yeah, because this is where coaches reveal who they are, fairly or not. And as good as McCaffrey's been during the regular season, and as much as he has won at a place where it isn't so easy to win, the Hawkeyes won the conference tournament last season, for example, he has won exactly 1 game in the big tournament the past 2 seasons. In fact, he has made the NCAA tournament 6 times and never gotten to the Sweet 16. Howard, meanwhile, has done it twice. He has also made an Elite 8, despite losing his second-best player to injury, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
poor Fran McCaffrey going after Fran. He's the Kirk Ferentz of Iowa football. He is.
Yeah, no, he's fun, and his stare down of a ref when they came back and beat Michigan State was
how long? How long did he stand there and look at him?
Oh my goodness! And then he took a step toward him. He walked toward him, right? Yeah. Which is shocking. It wasn't a technical foul. In fact, I was talking to a couple of colleagues of ours who cover nothing but college basketball who thought he was actually trying to get the technical foul because he thought the game was over, because they were down by 13 points with 1:50 left or whatever.
Throwing me out of this game. I want to get out of here.
In any case, so the reason I wrote this column about Howard in Michigan, is mostly Howard really, is because Michigan lost its last 2 games of the season at Illinois, at Indiana, both in overtime. They had leads in both late, a 7-point lead in overtime against Illinois, and then lost in double overtime, if I'm not mistaken. And then they were up by 12, I want to say, at Indiana with about midway through the second half, and then had chances to win at the end of the game before that went into overtime. And fans are, at least not all fans, but just a part of the fan base is starting to get frustrated and wondering what kind of coach Howard is. And he won with Beeline's players. And I addressed that in the column, that actually he did have a couple of them, but the bulk of his players that he won with are his. Transfer portal and a couple of McDonald's guys. In any case, I just wanted to provide some perspective, right? And it just makes me, I get it. They're a long shot to get to the tournament. They play Rutgers Thursday, which is when you're listening to this podcast. And if they beat Rutgers, they'll play Purdue tomorrow on Friday. And if they beat Purdue, they're in. They played Purdue to 3 points at Chrysler. They didn't play at Mackey Arena this year. So there's still a chance. It's a small chance. But even if they don't get into the tournament, the overall theme to what I had to argue in the column was that the team got better. It's the youngest team in the league. They got better. They played their best ball toward the end of the season. Kobe Buffkin got better. Doug McDaniel got a lot better, the freshman point guard. Even Juwan's son, Jett Howard, started to show improvement before he had some ankle issues and missed a couple of weeks. And my point is that's what you want. Ultimately, you're going to have years where you struggle. You're not going to contend for the conference every single year. You're not going to make a tournament run every single year. So what do you do in those years? Do you still show improvement? Do your guys still get better? Do you show that you can develop? If you have year after year after year where you're losing 12 games by 6 or fewer points, then yeah, we'll have that conversation. Can he coach at the end of the game? Et cetera. Does he need to change his recruiting strategy? But for now, he's been pretty good, filling some big shoes. And I just want to provide a little perspective. And all I did was alienate Michigan State fans who think that was just a piece for the blue wall, and Michigan fans who want Howard gone. So,
well, Shawn,
before we get to Michigan State and Izzo and where that team is heading into their Big Ten tournament, what you have to say about Michigan's season overall?
Well, I think to take a page out of your book, I think we have to acknowledge that this is Michigan, Shawn, and there's a higher standard. Okay, this is hail to the victors. This is a storied program. Michigan alums, or if they buy their shirts at Walmart, they expect and deserve more, Shawn. So that should anger the Michigan State fans and the Michigan fans equally the same way. No, I think that you're right. I mean, there's absolutely they played those games tough at the end. Wisconsin and Indiana and Illinois, both on the road, both close games, both over. I mean, what was it when they played Wisconsin before that? They won that in overtime on your boy Hunter Dickinson's huge shot at the end of the game. So, I don't know how you would get Michigan fans angry unless they somehow expect deep runs in the tournament every single year. It's just not going to happen. I don't think that's sustainable. So that's more than fair. But kudos to you for that. That is a fantastic lead. No, Michigan basketball coach Juwan Howard isn't on the hot seat, because it brings in one of the great buzzwords in sports is hot seat. But you're saying, no, but he's not. Wait a minute. I'm angry about something immediately, but I'm not quite sure what. So
it's funny, and I don't want to get into the sausage making part of the business and how we write and columns and so forth. But I was talking to somebody today. They're like, "Oh yeah, that was kind of you seemed a little irritated in the column, but it's also provocative." And I said, "Well, it's funny because Carlos, and I do this occasionally. You do this more than I do, but generally when you're being critical as a columnist, whether it's sports or anything else, it's about the principal players, right? It's about the in sports, the coaches, the players themselves, or management, or some other aspect directly related to the organizations and the teams, programs we write about. You don't often show that you're irritated with a portion of people who are basically the readers and fans and listeners and so forth of what they think, but that's just kind of where we're at right now, right? And I knew I was going to. It's funny. You usually think you're going to take heat when you are critical of somebody, either from the person you're critical about or for the people that love them, or both. And but when you're, I knew I was going to take heat from a lot of people because they wouldn't agree with my assessment, right? So I took a rather positive view of his tenure so far, Juwan Howard's tenure so far, and I knew I was going to get ripped for that. It's always funny when it happens that way. Sometimes you can be critical and get ripped because people love the person, but this was sort of the opposite of that.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes you're it's just the nature of the beast, like if you're too positive, you're too positive for some people. If you're negative, you're too negative for other people. And by the way, to the readers, if I would say 30 comments on a story, 40 comments on a story is a lot. And so Shawn's had more than 149 at last count comments.
I didn't know that, by the way.
Yeah, a lot. Oh, you read every single one of them. Don't lie.
No, I don't read the comments. I'm sorry to say that. It's just I just don't. I read if people tweet at me, I read that. If people email, I read that. And I try to respond to email. I don't always, but that's kind of where I'm at. The comments aren't really for me. They're for the community of readers out there that especially when it's Michigan State, that just want to go at each other.
Yeah.
And so that's not really. I mean, I'm sure some are directed at me, but it's all. There's also a separate conversation going on. But look, Howard has built his team. He did have a couple of critical pieces left over from John Beeline and Eli Brooks, who played the last Howard's first 3 seasons, and then Isaiah Livers, who got hurt. And I still think if he hadn't gotten hurt, they make the Final Four that year, and who knows? But that was 2 years ago. But his best team 2 years ago was because he had a great big man freshman in Dickinson. And then he found really, really good transfers in Shondy Brown and Mike Smith, who's a point guard. And they all kind of gelled with Franz Wagner, who was the most talented player on that team and who's really, really good as a young player in the NBA right now. Beeline initially recruited him some, but Howard's the one that really recruited him, had to sign him. So that was his team. The year before, that was mostly Beeline's guy when Xavier Simpson was still there. And then last year was Howard's team. What he's done, though, Carlos, is he's got, let's see, I'm trying to think, Moussa Diabate, Caleb Houston, they're both one-and-dones from a year ago. He's potentially got one more in his son with Jet Howard this year, and Kobe Buffkin, who's a sophomore, has started to show up on late first-round boards for the NBA draft. So he's probably going to lose his 2 most talented players again. Hard to say if Dickinson's going to come back, but what he's done, though, and he had his transfer point guard this year, a graduate transfer, got hurt in December, and they've missed him too. It's interesting the way he's team building with transfers and then 4- and 5-star guys who most of whom stay 1 year. Maybe Buffkin is going to stay 2. At some point, you wonder, does he need to go get 3-year, 4-year guys, and mix that in? I don't know, but he needs a little time to see if he can do that. Yeah, right. I mean, it's just so I don't know. I just think it's too soon to say what's going to happen, and he deserves time to adjust a little bit. You get to the Elite Eight and Sweet 16, you lead the Big Ten in NCAA tournament wins for a couple of years, then you get at least a little bit of leeway.
The problem is when his kids graduate, he's pretty much gone to the NBA, right? I mean, that's.
Well, I know people say that. Who knows? I mean, I know he wanted to be an NBA coach, and we'll see if that happens. He says he's committed to Michigan.
Would you be more surprised if he left for the NBA or stayed? I mean, where would you be more surprised?
It depends. If the NBA offers him a gig with young talent,
like a pretty good job, but
then yeah, I would. That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah,
but on the other hand, I believe that he loves Michigan, and there's probably part of him that wants to. I mean, who knows? Maybe he just wanted to stay through with his sons and have the experience, and
nothing wrong with that. With it.
No, there's nothing wrong with that at all. And the college game.
The only thing that you're talking about, different. Like he's building. This is how he's building his program. He may not be around that long. He may not have that much time.
And maybe that's why. I mean, the look at how he's built it. He's built it with really, really talented freshmen and graduate transfers or just transfers. So I don't know the Joey Baker, who's a wing from Duke. I can't remember. I don't think he's a graduate transfer, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But so it's interesting. So he's literally built a new team each year.
Yeah.
Right. So there hadn't been a whole lot of continuity. A couple players here and there that aren't really the principal players. And he had that with Eli Brooks. So who knows? We'll see what happens. But I think that when a team gets better and shows improvement, and they're a young team, and some years that's just has to be good enough. I had one reader, Carlos, email me and say, "Well, what good does that do that the young guys got better this year? What good does that do next year's team when they're probably going to go to the league?" And that's true. And my response is, that's still a university. Those are student athletes at the university. Don't you want them to come to the University of Michigan and get better at whatever they're doing and then move on out in the world? I mean, isn't that worth something? Yeah. I mean, have we just completely forgotten that? And the other thing it shows is that Howard and his staff can develop. So maybe it didn't quite work out this year, but if they show they can develop, then that's at least a little hopeful for the future. So that's what I would say to that.
It's almost as we were talking off camera about this, he's the anti-Steve Yzerman. He's like bizarro Steve Yzerman. I'm going to build a new empire every season. It's going to be completely different, but not sustainable at all. And I'm good with it.
No, for sure. It's
tough to do, man. That's a tough.
It's really tough to do, And Tom Izzo's done the opposite lately. Anyway, he's had the bulk of his team as well. He's got a couple transfers in Joey Hauser and Tyson Walker, and they're probably their 2 best shooters and 2 of their 3 best players probably. But he's got more continuity up there, not as much of the high-end talent as Howard has had. But they're playing their best ball of the year, too, and have won, 4 or 5? Something like that. And have looked good. They're shooting the ball. They've scored 80 points their last 4 games. There's the best they've looked by far all year offensively. They lead the league in three-point shooting. Chris Holtman, the Ohio State coach, said after the game the other day for Senior Day up in East Lansing that this is the best shooting team he thought Izzo's had since his Final Four team when Winston was there, Cassius Winston. So I don't know. They got great guards. The center's still kind of iffy, but they're playing their best ball of the season. Is that good enough to make a run? What you think?
No, I don't think so. I mean, they Izzo teams are always good, sound defensively, but you look at that team and they don't have a takeover type player, I think the teams are going to run into in the tournament. It's always someone you run into the tournament is always really, really good at something, and they're either bigs or they can shoot, lights out. They can something, that's I don't see. I mean, unless they can win defensive games, tighter games, they're always. But let me ask you this: to go full Mike Valeni, Michigan fan, is part of it that Michigan fan looks up at East Lansing and sees what Izzo does all the time. He keeps his guys. They're not, the stars that not getting these amazing stars, but he keeps teams together. He develops them. There's continuity there. Isn't that something that Michigan fans might say, hey, why can't we do that? Why can't we have these sustained runs all the time? They have these flashes. I think they did that more under Beeline, but having that just, steadiness in that program so that, uninterrupted winning, the Krzyzewski kind of thing, why can't that be us? You think there's some of that, some jealousy?
I don't. You mean from Michigan to Michigan State? I don't.
Yeah, Michigan fans seeing what Izzo does all the time. And
I don't think so because, well, for one, the last 3 years have been the tough. This has been the toughest 3-year stretch of Izzo's career since the first few years at Michigan State. And if he doesn't get out of the first weekend in the tournament this year, it'll be the first time he's ever gone 4 years where that happened. Right. There's only one other time where he's gone 3 years where that happened, where he's not got past the second round or the first weekend, I guess is the best way to put it these days, because they changed the name of the rounds. But, Beeline and Izzo, when they had a 5, 6, 7 year period, where they were maybe even 10-year period where they were kind of going toe to toe with each other. And some years one was a little bit better than the other. But they were both really good for a stretch. And I didn't sense any jealousy from Michigan at that point. I think they used to be before Beeline kind of got it going.
In the Tommy Amaker days? Yeah.
Yeah, Brian Ellaby.
But that's what they want, right? They want Beeline. They want Izzo or Beeline, these steady coaches who keep their players and, Yeah,
I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens with Howard. You make an Elite Eight. You make a Sweet 16. The year before, it's hard to know because COVID cut the year before the Elite Eight. COVID canceled the tournament. Although I thought Izzo had a Final Four team that year, and that's hurting him now a little bit. That people forget how good that team was at the end of the year, and then the season just shut down. That was Cassius Winston's senior year. So, I don't know. I don't see Michigan necessarily making the tournament this year, but they beat Purdue. I think they will, and I'm not sure about Michigan State making a run, but they've got what you need to make a run. They've got really, really good guard play. Their guard trio right now, Jaden Akins is healthy and really, shooting at 50-some% from three the last month or so, 3 weeks maybe, and is going to be a really, really good player and starting to show it right now. So that 3-guard triumvirate with Joey Hauser, who's playing the best ball of his career, and he's a great shooter. They're one of the best shooting teams in the country, and Tyson Walker is one of the best off-ball scoring guards in the country. He's put up a couple 30-point games in the last month and is routinely pushing up over 20. He can go get his own shot. It's just they've got the ingredients. We'll just, they may not have a dominant talent, but they got really, really good guards. So we'll see. We'll see. If anything, they're not as good defensively. They've slipped a little bit defensively in the second half of the season.
And how about, and I don't, this isn't necessarily college play that much, but just can they penetrate inside more, down low? Do they have enough size? Because Hauser's their center, right? I mean, he's
their power forward, but he's a perimeter player. I mean, he does post up from time to time as a nice little jump hook. No, their starting center, Mady Sissoko, is
Sissoko, right?
He can run the rim a little bit. His hands are sometimes not the best. He struggled in the middle of the season. He started off with some promise. He's played a little bit better lately. Sometimes he can look lost. He even talked about that. But he's, decent shot blocker and can be a good rebounder when he's, I don't want to say engaged because he's always engaged, when he's confident. But that's been their biggest struggle. They've got a freshman who can post up some, but he struggles defensively in Jackson Kohler. But they've got 4 guys that are as good, maybe not as good as the teams with lottery picks, but they're not that many of those. But they got 4 guys that are pretty good, sometimes really good.
So you make Michigan State shoot from the perimeter, from the outside, and if they have an off shooting night, they're done.
They're
right?
toast. Yeah, they're toast. They're toast unless they can find their defense that night, because they did play pretty good. They were the perimeter defending team for most of the year, and then they've fallen off. Oddly enough, as their offense has gotten better. Although I think that's common sometimes. You start making shots and you relax a little bit on the other end. But yeah, no, we'll see. It's always fun, the Big Ten tournament. I know it's been a bit of a down year for both teams, but they both played their best ball of the season last few weeks, so we'll see what happens.
And you're going to be in Chicago to cover it all, right?
I am.
This is Sean Windsor. This is pig and slop territory. You love Chicago. You love hoops. This is just, you couldn't think of a better. You're going to see all your buddies, all the Graham
both
couches,
schools, both schools are there, and that's always fun. They're long days, kind of like spring training days when you have 2 games in one day. Then, but that's okay. It is fun. It's a fun time of the year. March Madness is great too.
That's right.
I probably like that a little bit more than the Big Ten tournament, but the Big Ten tournament for me I love it. It's fun. And there's not quite as much national media, so it's not quite as crowded as some of the NCAA tournament sites are, right?
So if Michigan beats Rutgers on Thursday, today, as
they'll play Purdue,
then they play Purdue in the morning on Friday, and Michigan State plays right after them, 25 minutes after. So you're going to have to go. You're going to write back-to-back columns, Sean. How are you going to do that?
I'll write during the first half of the second game. I've actually done that before. So from courtside, yeah.
And you know what?
And you missed the first part of the game because you got to go back for interviews. There's just no way around that.
It's so, and I've gotten to cover a little bit of NCAA, basketball and stuff, and it's just a crazy hectic time, but it's really fun. I remember being worried about it, but and especially the tournament itself, there's so much energy.
It's really fun.
Crazy.
It's my favorite assignment of the year. The Big Ten tournament and the NCAAs are by far my favorite assignment of the year. The only thing that I don't know, a home playoff Lions game might.
I don't know what that is. So
yeah. I mean, if we ever saw that could, I was at NBA Eastern Conference Finals games at the Palace and NBA Finals games, and that's a different level for sure.
No, you know what I think, and
that's crazy.
Unlike pros and all that, this is different because it's like a carnival atmosphere, because you have all these teams, and I'm talking about the NCAA tournament. You have all these teams, all this media from different areas. The games are just like happening right after you go to press row. Your game is done. You have a seat. You get kicked out. Someone takes your spot, and they're rolling through the interviews.
Yeah, no, it's fun for
nuts.
Sure. It's fun for sure. But I've been to NBA Finals games and Eastern Conference Finals games, and especially at the Palace. And I've been on the road for a few of them, but the noise at those, see, that's the thing about the NCAA, is just they're not as loud because it's not a home game for anybody, so the fans are split. Right. And it's like going to a college football playoff. It's fun, but it's not like a home game. So when you have the World Series or the ACLS was like that at Comerica when the Tigers are there, it's just a different intensity. The intensity of that and the noise of that when it's all the community in there. That's different. That's why it's hard to even imagine what Ford Field would be like with a home playoff game.
I think to me, the only two things that I think that I've covered, you may disagree with this, but the two things that I've covered that I thought have that charged atmosphere from a media standpoint, but also from a fans, not as much from a fan standpoint necessarily, but from a media standpoint. But it is part of the fan experience too, I guess, is the Masters or a major, but usually the Masters, and the NCAA games, first round games especially, or what, it doesn't matter because they have, 4 teams in each site. So there's just a different hectic, pace to what's happening. And especially with the basketball, golf is like this little bit, your leaderboards, people making moves, this and that. But in basketball, you're covering the games, but there's a bunch of TVs in the media area and you're watching this team get eliminated. And I remember I went to one game and Duke was eliminated by, who was it one year? It was 10 years ago or something. And they were knocked out. And they might have been the top seed at the time. And they were knocked out in the first round. It was incredible. It was just, you could just hear it like pulsating through the arena, with all the news that's going on as the games unfold. So, this will be a fun tournament, Shawn, and I really look forward to it. I'm unfortunately, it's gonna be hard to watch the games here in Florida.
I know. I used to be, back when I covered the Tigers a lot more, I used to spend a lot of time in Florida during March Madness, and I can remember in the little press boxes trying to keep up on the computer and so on and so forth.
Oh, so hard.
Yeah, I remember I was down there when Michigan State lost to Middle Tennessee State. Actually, got upset.
That's it. Middle Tennessee. Yeah.
The 215. So, yeah, that's You know what though? You're in a good spot, man. It's pretty nice to be down there. That's for sure.
It is.
It's great.
Cool.
Great in its own way. It's just chill and relaxed, and the conversations you get to have with people. That's there's a lot of value.
It's different. It's different. Even like Hinch, you can tell he's a little more relaxed, and it's cool to see people in different environments.
No, for sure. Well, we said we were going to keep this short, and I don't know. It's a little bit shorter, but you got to get back to work. I got things to do. Let's get to that break, and we'll be right back with more Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. And we need to wrap this up with a very quick favorite thing. I'll start. My favorite thing is that you're in Florida enjoying this, and it's really that simple. What's your favorite?
How can that be your favorite thing?
Because I'm happy for you that you're down there. It's fun to do, and it's a nice break. So that's my favorite thing. What's yours?
I have a good one. My favorite thing is you're going to be in Chicago covering the Big Ten tournament. Because I actually literally I am sincere about this, that I know how much you love Chicago. We got to hang out there once a couple years ago, I guess, for a Bears-Lions game. It's a great city. It's a great food city. I'm sure you're going to be down there. And I forget the name of the joint that you love to go to in Chicago. What is it?
There are lots of them.
There's one. What's it?
The barbecue place?
There's a barbecue place. Yeah.
It's called Smoke with a Q. Yeah, that's really good. That's a little outside of downtown. There's so much good food in Chicago. No, I do like Chicago, and it's funny because although I did go there in the fall for the Lions. That was a quick trip. I haven't actually stayed downtown Chicago in a while. Probably since the last time the Big Ten tournament was there, which has been a while. Michigan State played in the final that year. Was that 2019, 18, 19? I want to say. So it was like 4 years. It was probably the last.
Stay down there for the Lions game.
I stay at the airport. I just got into the habit because sometimes I go to Northwestern for football or what. I just got in the habit of staying at O'Hare, and the last several times I've done that, I just take the train down, or if I have a car. But in any case,
yeah, I just thought my favorite thing was definitely like you eating your way through the Windy City and hanging with guys like your buddies, Matt Charbonneau and Graham Couch and Brendan Quinn and all that. And I know you're really going to enjoy that. So. I'm happy for you. The way you're happy for me being in Florida, I'm happy for you going to Chicago.
I appreciate that, bud. Well, let's wrap this up and thank the people we need to thank.
Yeah, we have to thank. Well, first, the most important person is Robin Chan, our producer, and executive producer and sports editor Kirkland Crawford, and executive producer and interim editor Anjanette Delgado. But mostly, Shawn, we always have to thank the listeners, because without you, this doesn't mean very much. But
wherever you find your favorite podcast, at Apple, Spotify, when you get there, rate, Give us a rating. Please subscribe. That would make our days. That would make Carlos's trip in Florida much happier, I think. Not that that's possible. All right. Well, thanks, man. It was fun. Good to see you. Keep me posted. I look forward to seeing your stuff.
Thanks, Shawn. I will.
You're welcome, Carlos. It's good to see you. We will reconvene wherever we are next week. I don't know. Maybe I'll be in Sacramento at a first-round NCAA tournament site. But who knows? Or maybe Columbus, Ohio. You never know. That's the beauty of these things. Until then, no, my friend, we will be back next week with another episode of Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn.